A woman should be quiet. She should be obedient and uncomplaining. She should endure without asking for more. A woman should not assert herself, express anger, or demand space. She should find fulfillment in domesticity and romantic relationships. A woman should sacrifice. These are the ideals of womanhood that the Match Factory girl portrays through the monotonous, suffocating life of Iris. The film shows us a world in which women are expected to become invisible through submissiveness. But what happens when even total obedience fails a woman to earn belonging, love, or recognition? Iris's story begins with the machines she works with. We see the mechanical, repetitive, and dehumanizing rhythm of the Match Factory. The camera captures the factory's cold and industrial motions that mirrors the emotional bleakness of her life. She is reduced to a part of the machine rather than recognized as a person. Lauretis's concept of the technology of gender helps us understand how the Match Factory operates not just as a workplace, but as a place of ideological production. Her labor is invisible and undervalued just like her life outside the factory walls. The first time we encounter Iris with her supervisor looking over her shoulder becomes the first symbol of systematic forces of her life, reinforcing her role as a woman, passive and compliant. The factory does more than producing matches. It produces a version of femininity stripped of agency and voice. She is just another cork in the machine. Yet, Iris's oppression is not solely about her gender or her job. It also extends to her home life, a space where, as Bell Hooks argues, the dynamics of gender and class are inseparable. Her father's brutal criticism of her as a whore for the simple act of buying a dress for personal pleasure is an illustration of this intersectional marginalization. Adrian Ritz's concept of compulsory heterosexuality powerfully eliminates why this domestic sphere, instead of offering refuge, becomes another site for Iris's profound erasure. Which claims that heterosexuality is not merely a personal preference, but a political institution designed to ensure male right of access to women, physically, economically, and emotionally. Iris's family unit functioned as a primary enforcer of this patriarchal control. Her father's verbal abuse is for keeping under control of her sexuality and self expression, aiming to fit her to the subservient female role. Furthermore, Iris is trapped in an emotionally abusive home for which she must also provide. She cooks, cleans, and is obliged to act in accordance with her family's desires. Her financial contributions, far from allowing her autonomy or respect, only place her as a servitude within this male dominated household.
The ideal of finding fulfillment in domesticity is absurdly inverted in Iris' life. Her tasks are not chosen, but are repressive obligations. This suffering illustrates what Hook calls the intersection of gender and class, a system where conforming to the expectations tied to either her gender or her class offers no refuge, only deep erasure. Crucially, this lack of refuge is caused by the complete absence of nurturing maternal bonds, no female solidarity that could offer an alternative source of strength or challenge to the patriarchal oppression. Her mother, far from being a supportive figure, is a complicit in abuse, further isolating Iris and reinforcing the patriarchal order. The only part where we can see her mother being sincere and helpful is when a potential husband comes to their house, which is a new source for money to them. Thus, Iris Holmes is not a safe place, but a small version of a broader societal forces that devalue her, where compulsory heterosexuality and class-based exploitation work combine to deny her agency and voice, eventually her humanity. Simone de Beauvoir's notion of other further illuminates Iris's condition. As de Beauvoir writes, Iris is not seen as a full subject in her own right, but defined through her subordination to others, her own family, institutions, and especially men. Her main motive in the beginning of the film is to be desired by a man. First time the viewer learns her name is through a letter she writes to a guy she likes. Her conformity towards the people around her reflects how societal norms construct and internalize this inferiority. By meeting these expectations, Iris illustrates not just external oppression, but the psychological effects of being cast as the other, silent, secondary, and ultimately invisible. Nobody in her life cares about what she wants. She only obeys the silently determined rule imposed upon her. However, the film's climax disrupts this pattern. After Iris receives the letter that tells her to get rid of her baby, she processes the rejection quietly. She does not use the money that the father of the baby gave to her and throws herself in front of a car to get rid of her baby, although initially she wants to keep it. She sacrifices something she desires not to give her oppressors any claim over her life. She poisons the man who impregnated and dismissed her, the man who hit on her at a bar, and her parents. Iris does not want to reclaim what was taken. She wants to destroy any possibility of dependence and vulnerability. Iris's act of violence offers an unsettling answer to what happens when a woman's total obedience fails to secure her belonging, love, or recognition. It can culminate in a devastating rupture, a violent reclamation of agency against a system that has rendered her invisible. Through Butler's lens, this act is not just a revenge, but a non-normative performance that resists the identity imposed upon her. It reveals that gender roles are not fixed, but vulnerable to disruption. Iris's rebellion asserts her agency toward a system that has confined her socially, economically, and emotionally. By rejecting motherhood, severing the ties with her family, and punishing the man who used her, she symbolically annihilates the structure that defined her worth. Her silence and stillness throughout the film make her final acts all the more meaningful. She breaks the image of the obedient and invisible woman.